So ideally what you want to do is test components as you code. Ideally for each class, write a test that exercises the class. So you need a test for each class that you create, okay? Every class requires a test class. And it does things like checking boundary conditions and various other conditions, checking, for example, that it throws an exception when an exception is required. For example, if null's passed, then it should throw an exception. Checking that certain values are not allowed. For example, in a bank account, you shouldn't be able to deposit a negative value. So your tests should cover all eventualities. So ideally, what you want to do is write test class to the declared contract. So the contract basically means your interface before implementing the class under test. So what you do, somebody's provided you with an interface or a description of the different methods that need to be implemented. So you take the interface and you implement the test class first, and then you start implementing the interface and the various methods. Okay, so that's the correct way to be writing computer programs. We're using JUnit for that. It's a simple open source framework to write and repeatable tests. The latest version is JUnit 5, and it makes use of annotations to identify tests. So in the same way that we use annotations to create Java docs, so I'm sure that you're familiar with creating documents for your computer programs, whatever programming language you've used in the past, there's always support to document your classes using annotations. If you don't know how to do that with Java, then check the menu. It automatically does that for you. All you got to do is write the right annotations. There's lots of tutorials for doing documentation as well as for doing unit testing. So I've provided you with sort of a sheet to have a look at. You don't need to memorize these, but this is to be familiar with the various most useful annotations that you would need for creating a unit test. So for example, you would use the @test annotation. So this identifies a method as a test method. So @test expected exception class. So this fails if a method does not throw a named exception. So you're checking for exceptions. Test timeout 100. So here you're testing the performance of the class. Fails if the method takes longer than 100 milliseconds, and so on. So have a look at all these. There's a link here to a useful tutorial, just in case you've not done unit testing before. So have a look at it. And there's a number of useful methods within JUnit that you would use within your test classes. So for example, assertion true. So you're asserting that this Boolean condition is true, or you're asserting that something is false. We've got this method, this class here called account test that we've created. What we're doing, we're importing Teach Tools account, the account class, which you can find, it's under ACC, so it's here. So this is the account class that we're testing. So it's a class. It has a number of methods. It's a very basic class. It has methods like deposit. If the amount deposited is less than 0, throws an illegal argument exception, and then it adds the amount passed to whatever the balance was. It's got a number of methods like get the account number, get the balance, set the account holder, their name, set their account number, transfer a balance from one account to this account, withdraw. So it's a basic implementation of the example that we've seen previously. So this is just a very, very basic implementation to demonstrate how to use unit testing. And the idea is that you want to test that each of these methods within your account class is doing what it's supposed to do. Okay, so there's an account test class here, and just take note of the annotations that are being used at the start of each method to identify this as being a test class. So these are, so notice for example that we're importing the JUnit package. We're also importing assert, because we want to make use of assertions within JUnit. We're also importing any data structures that we might need to use in order to test our classes. So I'm importing here an array list. So just take a notice of these import statements, maybe comment them out and see what happens if you comment them out, what errors are produced. Take note of these annotations. So as I said, these are described within this sheet that I provided you. Okay, so have a look at those. So here, for example, I'm making use of the JUnit assert statement. So I'm asserting that whenever, so here I create an account, and whenever the get balance method is called, I'm asserting that here it should be equal to 0, okay? Because the balance, I guess, at the start should be 0. So the way that you run this is that you would run this class in the same way that you would run any Java class. So here I'm just going to run it, and you see that here at the bottom, it's this particular method is green, which means that it's passed the test. Okay, so it means that it's passed the test. You've got a number of methods that are blue, which means that they've not been implemented. Okay, you need to specify. So this is your job. You need to specify within each test method some code. So those of you that have done it have already done it. Those of you who haven't done it, you need to put the code in there to test the various methods that have not been implemented. So what else do I have? So here I've got another method called test deposit. So I'm creating an account and I'm depositing a certain amount of money in the account. I'm depositing £10. Whenever I deposit £10, account get balance should be equal to 10. And then I'm depositing a negative value. And when you deposit a negative value, your method should throw an illegal argument exception. So here we're saying at the top of the test, expected illegal argument exception class. Okay, so it's expected that whenever I'm trying to deposit, when I'm doing this test, when I'm depositing a negative value, it should throw an illegal argument exception. So here you notice that the test deposit method here passes as well because it's in green at the bottom. So there's a number of other. So what else is there? So here. Test get account holder. So this is for you to do. So it's fail at the moment. It's got a fail method and it's not implemented. So this is something for you to implement. So there's a number of those with fail. So you need to implement those. There's one here, test transfer balance, which is implemented but it fails the test. So you need to figure out why it fails the test and make it pass the test. So have a look at those and try and complete this class. And this is a very important part of your coursework as well. Okay, so one of the key aspects of your coursework is that we don't use a graphical user interface. We're not using any interface between the computer program and the user of your program. So the idea is that for your coursework, you're developing a number of interfaces, a number of classes that you're going to give to a graphical user designer or some kind of interface designer, and they can implement it in any way that they want. So the only way for you to test your code is to use unit testing. Okay, so that's the way that you want to test your coursework.